You're up.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome and happy St. Patrick's Day. This is the actual only green thing I could find in my wardrobe. But I got with the program. My name is Stephen Hanks. I'm a member of the Democrats of the Red Rocks Board. I'm also the new chairman of the programs committee, of which the breakfast is one of the programs. I want to make a few short announcements before I introduce our president. If you saw a little bit of coloration in the decaf coffee, that is because I thought it was actual coffee. And I took a cup and realized not only was it not regular coffee, but it was also cold. And I had put a little bit of cream in it, but didn't want to waste it. So I poured it back in the pot.
Oh.
So, but did not drink. So I hope none of you are allergic to cream. I'm going to be up for whether or not I stay on the board because of this probably. No way. Our president is going to talk a little bit more about why we're all here, but we thought it would be a great idea. Ellen and I had a long conversation about what we should do in one of the early presentations at the breakfast. And we thought, given it's a new year and we have new board members, that we would do this presentation so people could get to know us better. Ellen will talk a lot more about that. I just wanted to make a couple of general big picture comments before we get into the nuts and bolts about what DORR does. We're in the beginning of 2023, and I know we just had a midterm, and the next election is fairly far away. But we have to be energized like right now. Oh, by the way, I did want to make one announcement. I am going to be checking my Twitter on a regular basis while we're here, in case my old city of New York indicts the former president. It's possible. It's possible. I will jump up and say breaking news. Anyway, with that in mind, we are in a situation right now where, with all the issues that we have to deal with, the two biggest threats to our democracy, whether it's the country as a whole or Arizona in particular, are white supremacy and Christian nationalism. And the connection of all those things is why we are fighting for voting rights right now. We have a zillion other issues, but those are the big ones. And those are the ones that we have to focus on, because that's why books are being banned in some states. That's why we're having the abortion fight right now. So we really have to keep our eye on the ball with those things. The media is not focusing on that as much as they should, which pains me because I've been in the media my whole life. So we have to pick up the slack. And I think what you're going to hear today from all of our board members, and especially from our president, is what DORR is planning on doing between now and the 24 election to take care of those things and to focus on those things. So with that, I'm proud to introduce the new president of the Democrats of the Red Rocks, Ellen Ferrara.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our Zoomers. Good to have you here. This breakfast is different than any other breakfast we've had. We realize that our membership doesn't really have a lot of time to give input to the organization. And likewise, the membership does not really know very much about who is running our organization. And if we want you to be loyal DORR members and feel connected with this organization, then we think it's really important that you know who is running the organization. There are a lot of people behind the scenes that do a ton of work, and you don't even know who most of those are, but after today you will. So everybody on the board and everybody who is a committee chair, meaning they're not on the board, but they're chairs of certain committees and doing a ton of work. And our paid organizer, Lama Hayburn, is here today. And what I've asked everybody to do is to give a brief, like 1 to 2 autobiography of themselves. Tell a little bit about your background, who you are, so you know who is on your DORR board. And then they will give another couple of minutes about their position with DORR and what exactly they do in that position. After we have heard from everybody, and there's a lot of everybody's here, that's part of what makes this organization so great. We will take a look at the mission of DORR. This is published front and center on our website. And so we should all be aware of what our mission is, what are we trying to do, and what activities do we want to engage in that will help us achieve our mission better. I want to think of this as sort of a family meeting. We did not send a press release to the Red Rock News to notify everybody about this meeting. This is more of a family meeting so that DORR members can get to know what's happening here. I want to thank so sincerely Jeff Dissinger and Sam Pettijohn and Al Camello, because they have been our tech crew since we went to these hybrid meetings and started coming back meeting in person. And honest to God, we could not do this without them. The only board member that is not here today and is not on Zoom, I don't think, is Gary Stewart. Gary is our treasurer and chair of the finance committee. In fact, Gary is the finance committee. So I want to acknowledge Gary and what he's done and what he is doing, and he's very tight with the dollar. You think Ben Shore is tight. Ben made everybody pay. Even the board members who were here doing presentations. So, I mean, I don't know.
But we wouldn't reveal our finances anyway, so Gary didn't need to be here.
Yeah. So anyway, most of us are here in the room, and the ones that are not are zooming in. And so we'll see them on the screen if they're not in the room here. And we would like your input, not on our biographies, because that's kind of, but once we start talking about the mission of the organization. Margaret Connery, who is our event chair, is going to tell you about the upcoming events, and there are a lot, and she's been working her tail off starting tomorrow. I'm not gonna, when you get up here, Margaret, then we'll do that. But just the highlights: tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day Parade. We have a DORR float / truck, and Tom O'Halloran, our congressman, a former congressman, is joining us. And we would love as many DORR members as possible to walk down
Jordan Road.
89A, pardon me?
Jordan Road.
Jordan Road, yes.
So you
So
walk down 89A, you'll be alone.
you'll be alone. Walk down 80, yes, Jordan Road. We're going to start at the Heritage Center, but Margaret will tell you about that later. Another thing we're doing, and we're doing this kind of thing so that DORR members will get to know one another better and feel connected to the organization. We are participating with the Oak Creek Watershed Council in helping clean up our environment. In other words, we're picking trash. So on March 23rd, we're going to gather at Sunset Park at 8:30 in the morning, and we will be given fluorescent vests, which are not flattering to anyone, and pickers and trash bags. And we're going to go around the Sunset Park, Carroll Canyon area and pick up some trash. And then, of course, have lunch afterwards. Speaking of lunch, two of my favorite things are eating, of course, number one, and number two, dancing. And I am proud to announce, no details, but we are going to have a dance on May the 20th called Dancing with the Dems. And we are going to get down, we are going to eat, and we are going to dance, and we're going to have some fun. It's actually a fundraiser, and it's going to be fabulous. No details yet, but put it on your calendar now. It's a Saturday night. It's going to be beautiful. We'll be at the Elks Club. Okay, I think those are my announcements. Oh, one more announcement. Yolanda Bejarano is the new chair of the Arizona Democratic Party. Yolanda is coming to Clarkdale on April the 1st for a fundraiser that's being held by the Verde Valley Yavapai Democrats. It will be at a private home. There is a little emphasis on little putt-putt course. And so the fundraiser is to do a round of putt-putt, meet our new Arizona chair of the Democratic Party, and have some fun with other Democrats. So,
It's actually
yes.
for the Yavapai County Dems.
It's your, okay, so it's for the Yavapai County Dems, so that's terrific. So it'll be a good time, April 1st, kind of, we'll get details out to you, and I think we already have. Okay, so I will do my biography / autobiography. I don't know what this is. I will tell you a little about myself, and then I will ask Diane Christensen, our vice president, to come up and tell about herself and what she's doing for DORR. I'm a Philadelphia girl and was in Philadelphia until I could leave. And I did. As soon as I graduated from high school, I went to college at University of Maryland. I was very hot to trot about certain political things, not political, but human rights things, specifically feeding programs for hungry people in this United States. And so I majored in political science, minored in American history, got a job working on Capitol Hill as an intern first, and then worked my way up to office manager very quickly on the staff of Bella Abzug. Bella Abzug was a very difficult employer. And so the only reason I worked my way up the ladder so quickly was because people were quitting like crazy. So I worked my way up the ladder in Bella's office and then escaped that office as soon as I could. And I did get a lot of education there at that time. And I went to work instead for Congressman Ed Koch, who later went on to become mayor of New York. When he became mayor of New York, I was out of a job, and then I got another one with Congresswoman Barbara Mikulski, who then became a senator from Maryland. So I worked on the Hill for a while, but feeding programs was my main thing. So I transferred to the Department of Agriculture, USDA, where I spent 15 years working at the food stamp program and 3 years for the school lunch program. My parents ran a business in Philadelphia. My husband and I appeared to be their exit strategy out of that business. And after 18 years with the federal government, we went to New Jersey and took over a factory making dance costumes for children at dancing school, which is a logical progression for a political science degree. And my husband has a master's in social work. And we were making tutus for a while. And we made tutus and we made money. And so we sold the business and moved to Sedona in 2014. And I thought I would have a wonderful retirement until, you know, who was elected. And then that completely derailed my retirement plans. And so I became what I am today. And I ran an indivisible group called After the March. And that started pardon me, the bus trip. Yes, we went to Phoenix on a bus trip after the march. So my political immediate background is indivisible. And I'm very proud of that organization. It's one of the joys of my life to be part of that organization. And since January, I have been president of DORR, and another great honor. So that's it in a nutshell. I will now introduce to you Diana Christensen, who is a good friend and the vice president of DORR.
Hi, so I want to just repeat, since I'm involved in the fundraising committee, save the date. It's May 20th, Dancing with the Dems. We're going to have a great time. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I can't say a whole lot about my background without mentioning that I spent my childhood in foster care. 10 homes, 3 religions, deep religions, and which is very important. So I could have a college education in comparative religions. And it propelled me in high school to get involved in politics. And I have been involved actively since then. I've been working with different campaigns, with different issues. I started working for nonprofits when I first got a job out of college, doing prison work for prisoners, advocating for prisoners. I went from there doing work around the criminal justice system. I got hired by the city of San Francisco as a investigator with the Office of Citizen Complaints, investigating police misconduct. This is long before it became an issue that's known. I ran a nonprofit called Community United Against Violence in the gay community in San Francisco for 6 years. I ultimately became a manager for the city of San Francisco, a bureaucrat, and was working with nonprofits and raising money the entire time. One of my favorite things to do is to canvass. I think that direct connection with people is huge. And I'm hoping that we can continue in the off year to inspire people to come out. And so we're about to start a campaign, 1,000 signatures for Ruben Gallego. Let's do it. I hope you'll join me.
Yeah.
Introduce somebody.
That's right. I'm here already. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Anton. I was a lawyer in New Jersey for about 50 years, and in about 3 months, I will be totally retired. We've been here, my wife Sarah and I have been here since June of 2019. And like Ellen and so many others, we became motivated by recent political developments. And so it wasn't too long after that I decided that DORR was the right place to be. I am the office manager of the DORR office at 105 Roadrunner, which is open on, right now is open on Thursdays and Saturdays from 11 to 3. As we ramp up this important year before the elections next year, we'll be open more frequently. And we have a number of people who are attending the office, volunteers who are terrific, and who will welcome you and provide information if you need it. And the office also provides a space for Lama and for Diana and for others. So they say there are only 4 vortexes in Sedona. I think the office serves as another source of energy. Of course, a lot of the energy comes from the board and from you, but the office is important. And I thank Linda Scott, who was the long-term office manager, for giving me the opportunity to take care of this office. And we will have that office for the next year or two, and hope to see you all there. Thank you.
We can read. Hi, everybody. I'm Holly Plug. I'm the vice mayor of the city of Sedona. And politics I was born, I said this during the campaign, that politics was in my mother's womb when I was in my mother's womb.
Together.
Nourishment, enrichment, politics. So my history has really been, I'm having problems with my ears. I'm really plugged up, so excuse me, because I get a reverberation of talking. When I was in high school, my issue was civil rights. And I marched in lots of different places for civil rights. And when I was in junior year in high school, I worked for Bobby Kennedy, who was running for the US Senate in the state of New York, aging myself. And when he won, I decided to go to Washington, DC for college. I went to George Washington University and I worked on the Hill as an intern. Bella Abzug later became my congresswoman, and that's all I'll say about that. I also worked in the prisons, teaching prisoners to read when I was in college. And I also had a part-time job at the National Theater when Dr. Zhivago played for about 2 years. And I could give you every single line of that. That's when they had, by the way, reserved seating. You had to take tickets, and I was an usherette, take people to their seats. Anyway, when I graduated from college, I had a degree in international studies, Sino-Soviet studies. And my goal, I thought at the time, was to go work for the UN or the State Department, till I learned that women couldn't become no profession. You couldn't even take the foreign service exam. So I was very disillusioned when I left school, started graduate school, and then thought, why? So I got a job working for Marvel Comics. That's all I said. Eventually, it was fabulous. A lot of fun. Eventually, I went to law school, got back with the program, and I was an attorney until I retired a few years ago. Now I don't have to pay bar dues anymore. But all that time, I really was very active. So what changed my activism was eventually I went to work for corporate America, and corporate America takes your soul away from you. In reality, it's true. And you are not, she's shaking her head, you are not allowed to be political at all. So 30 years goes by and I'm political on the sidelines. And so when I retire from corporate America, I have all this built up energy to get back into the game. And we moved to Sedona. And I remember Barbara Luttrell telling me, you live in Arizona. And I said, no, I live in Sedona. I try to pretend that the rest of the state had nothing to do with me. And boy, did I learn that's not true at all. So in 2023. So 2020, Kathy Kinsella and I decided to run as a team for the city council. And we were successful in our and won. And then this year, after the new mayor, Scott Jablow, sitting in the back of the room, who credits his win largely to the efforts of DORR. I became the vice mayor. So I have been the liaison with the Yavapai Democrats for the last 3 years. And it's a really great organization. Now, we are a political action committee, DORR. We are not the party. They are the party. So they have different rules than we do, more restrictive, actually. And it's a great relationship because we can do things they can't do, and they can do things we can't do. And so we work very well together collaboratively. Due to the efforts of the precinct leadership in Yavapai County, now Lama has succeeded the prior leaders, Nikki and Carrie, but due to all the efforts, we had a 94% Democratic turnout in early voting in Yavapai County. It's fabulous. The Republicans only had a 70% turnout. And our overall turnout for voting was 80%, which is the highest in the state.
Wow.
So the big fundraiser, we talked about the April 1st fundraiser, which is going to be a lot of fun in Clarkdale. But the big fundraiser is on September 23rd, mark that date. It's in Prescott, and it's the annual Truman Clinton dinner. So I hope we'll buy a table or two and we'll go over to Prescott for that event. Ruben Gallego has confirmed to be one of the keynote speakers, and they're looking for others as well. So perhaps we'll be able to get the governor or someone, Chris Mays, somebody like that to come to the event. Mike Fogel, who ran for the Senate from our district, state Senate, is now the new president of the Yavapai Dems. A new group, lots of energy, and look forward to good things. They're targeting 2 different communities, Latinos and young people. Latinos because they're underrepresented in voting, and young people because when they vote Democrat. So that's their strategy for the upcoming election this year, getting people prepared, amongst other things, and raising a bunch of money. And even though some people here are from Coconino County, and we do have a liaison with Coconino, that's not me. So now I'll introduce Kathy Ransom, who's a liaison with the Verde Valley Yavapai Democrats.
Thank you. I am Kathy Ransom. If that name sounds familiar, it's because I was on your ballot in November running for the state house. We lost. I'm sorry. Right. Yeah, we're so sorry at levels. But now I am on the board of DORR, and I am the Verde Valley Yavapai Dems liaison. That's the west side of the Valley Democrats, for those of you. And we added the Y recently because we got more official in our relationship with the Yavapai County Dems. We used to just be the VVD. And then we could get in a lot of trouble, and now we have to be a little more well-behaved. But speaking of misbehaving, oh wait, I'm supposed to talk about myself first. Okay, I'm a Navy brat, but I have lived in the Verde Valley now for over 20 years, which I think might make me the longest living in Verde Valley DORR board member or close. And I took over Mike Cosentino's job as the VVYD liaison. He said we needed someone younger and prettier, so I'll let you decide if you got that. Then what was I going to say next? I started to say something and it came back to me. Misbehavior. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I want to invite everyone here to the drag show in Cottonwood on April 8th. That is making some good trouble.
Yes.
The reason why, and maybe you're like, drag show, not really my thing. The reason why a drag show is important is because they came for our abortion rights. And now they are coming for the LGBTQ community.
Oh, yeah.
And Democrats need to stand with our LGBTQ community. And one way we can do that is to show up at the drag show. It's a little odd.
Where and when?
But it's April 8th. It's 7 o'clock at night.
Yes.
In the now they call it the Cottonwood Community Center. We used to call it the Civic Center. It's that beautiful River Rock building on the corner down in Old Town. We're hoping they're going to protest because then there will be some press, and then Democrats can say we are here supporting the LGBTQ community. And that's all I want to say. And I'm going to introduce Stephen Hanks, our events chairperson.
Programs.
Program.
Hey, everybody, I'm back again. It's a little bit weird that I'm following Kathy because we seem to be connected constantly because we played husband and wife in a Great Gatsby production in VOC last month. So we're always together. So I'm going to transition from my stage wife to my actual wife when I'm done. So I was given 5 minutes for my slot, and given that I have to talk about my life, I'm going to go way over. No, but since Ellen and Diana didn't take all their time, I'm going to absorb a couple of those minutes. Anyway, so I became a political junkie and a journalism junkie, which actually became my career in magazine journalism, the weekend of November 22nd, 1963, which changed my life at the age of 8. 2 years later, I was in my first political campaign when I ventured far away from my neighborhood in the Bronx to deliver flyers for John Lindsay for mayor.
A Republican.
Well, I was so into the idea of handing out flyers. I mean, we were a Democratic family, but in those days, Republicans would have been Democrats now. But I wandered so far away from my neighborhood that I missed dinner And my dad actually showed up at the campaign headquarters and reamed them out for letting a 10-year-old wander around without supervision. But I did make it home in one piece. Fast forward to my next campaign. I became a political science major at Herbert H. Lehman College, City University of New York in the Bronx. And my next major campaign was again handing out flyers for Jimmy Carter for president in 1976. And God love him, hope he sticks around a little longer. And the flyers that I handed out, my job was to go to the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan at 6 o'clock in the morning, stand outside the terminal when the New Jersey commuters were coming in, and hand out flyers that were reproductions of the New York Daily News cover, which said Ford to New York, drop dead.
Ford to city drop.
Ford the city drop dead. Thank you, baby. In 1992, I worked in the Bill Clinton campaign as a street corner speaker. I spoke at community centers. I was a media monitor, which was a really cool experience. Got to go to the election party at the hotel when he won the first time. So that was great. So I've been involved in politics my whole life. The last few years in New York, I got very involved in the cabaret world, the cabaret entertainment world, a very interesting entertainment subculture. And what I decided to do when I produced shows there was run fundraising variety shows for Democratic candidates.
Nice.
Did about maybe 10 shows over 3 years. And I actually did one when I went back to New York in May for voting rights organizations. We raised a good amount of money. That was a fantastic experience. I had all these performers that volunteered their time and their talent to do these shows. And, you know, maybe one day we'll do something like that here, who knows? But it was really great to do that. So right before my wife B and I decided to move to Sedona at the beginning of 2021. Well, actually during the pandemic in 20, we made the decision. And we were going to move here in July of 21, but I wanted to find out what the Democratic group club situation was here. So I went on the internet, found DORR, joined as a family, found out there was a film club, which I thought was extremely cool, went to a film club meeting, which Frankie Reamer is going to talk about when she speaks, because she runs that with Mick Jordan. And within a couple of weeks of showing up in that film club, I was pitched to be on the board of DORR. Which, you know, was not something that I could refuse. And then, of course, I pulled my wife in. So we're both in this organization and we're really happy that we're here and proud of it. So what I do in the programs committee, in addition to organizing the breakfast with Ellen's input, because she did this the last couple of years. By the way, just a preview of the next breakfast, because I already have it nailed down. The reason why I brought up the Christian nationalism and white supremacy issues before is because I've been able to get Miles Taylor, who many of you have probably seen on MSNBC numerous times. He's the famous guy who wrote the Anonymous book. And Jennifer Cohen, who has been a journalist who has been all over the Christian nationalism issue. And they're both going to be on Zoom, and that's the program for April. We're also working on maybe having a gun control theme for May. Part of the program, yeah.
How are you gonna do it here? How are you gonna do this?
Well, they'll be on the screen.
Put it on.
Yeah, they'll be on the screen like we did when the NAH guy and my friend Steven was here last month. The film club is a program, and I don't want to step on Frankie's presentation on that, but I just wanted to let you know that on May 5th, we're going to have a fundraiser at the film festival at Mary Fisher Theater at 4 o'clock, a fundraising film, which we've done a couple already, we're going to be showing the documentary, The Janes, which is about the women in the late 60s in Chicago who were getting secret abortions. And was kind of a precursor to the feature film that came out
What day?
after May 5th. It's Cinco de Mayo. It's a 4 o'clock. It's Cinco de Mayo, and we're all gonna go to a Mexican restaurant and drink after that. Keep with the theme. We're also planning, it's not definite yet, but we're also planning a golf fundraiser like we had last year. The details are still being worked out. And I basically think that's it. Yeah. So I thank you for your attention. And who's up? Oh, just somebody that I happen to know. My wife, B. Hanks, who's the head of the membership committee.
As Steve said, I'm B. Hanks, I head of the membership committee, and this is really inside stuff. I spent 40 years, almost 40 years in magazine publishing, and I left, my last job was as a senior vice president of circulation at Black Enterprise magazine, which was the magazine for the rising at that time Black middle class. So we did a lot of direct mail. Circulation was an obscure thing that nobody but me wanted to do. And we also were allowed to be political, unlike some other places, because we were Black Enterprise. So when the magazine industry fell apart and I left it and started a second career as another obscure enterprise, I was a medical coder, and the little codes that you see on your insurance forms, there's a code for your diagnosis and a code for the procedure. And I didn't have to memorize all 65,000 of them, but you had to know the rules. So, and then I left that finally and retired in 2019. And we came here after having been, having fallen in love with the place in July of 21, because it had no humidity and yes, baseball. So you may ask, how many members do we have? Well, it depends on when you ask it, because on May 5th, we had 358, but this morning we only had 340. How can this be, you ask? Well, it used to be that all the memberships expired at the end of the year. So there was a large group of memberships lapsing and renewals taking place in December and January. Then in 2021, we joined Join It, which among many other advantages said your annual membership starts when you start. So we had people expiring in June, but we still had a lot of people left over who expired at the end of the year. So in 2022, we did a very successful direct mail piece, which led to a lot of expirations in January and February and renewals coming in at the beginning of the year in February and March. So this year, we're first going to call the people to eliminate some of the undeliverables and also to get people who have just forgotten. And I know there's some of them. But then we're going to do one more renewal mailing with the new logo. If some of you have the brochure with the old logo, we have a new logo now. And we're concentrating on getting new members for the rest of the year. We'll do this by being at events and by canvassing. So if you know anybody who may be of a right thinking, or left thinking.
Correct.
Encourage them to join because the membership is what fuels this organization, which allows us to do the other things, that and the fundraising. But the membership, you all are members, hopefully. So we're trying to get up to 400 members by the end of the year. Maybe it's a reach, but I think we can do it, especially if we're concentrating on 2024, getting ready for that big important set of elections. Now, one thing you may say, if you encounter any resistance, is you can sign up online. And if you sign up online, you're offered the possibility of an auto bill, which means that your credit card will be automatically charged, with your permission, of course, every year, so you don't even have to remember to renew. It'll happen for you. So I hope all you guys can, in your regular life and in your campaign life, go out and get more members, and we can reach that 400. And now I'd like to introduce Linda Scott.
Hi. Is anybody a new member?
Will be.
Yes. Rob, welcome. We're going to talk. I am Linda Scott, and I am the first person that you're going to see today who's not from the East Coast.
Get her out of here.
Yes, except for Diana. Diana was San Francisco. Yeah. I grew up, this sounds so tacky. I grew up in a little town, 2,500 people, related to most of them in Eastern Ohio. We used to refer to it as upper class Appalachia. And my father told me when I was 8 that I had to get out of town because there was nothing for you here. So I took him at his word, and I went to Bowling Green University and then to the University of Chicago, where I got an MBA, and stayed in Chicago for the rest of my career, which was in sales. And sales in those days, business to business sales, was no place for a woman, I was told. It was a belly to belly business, I was told. And so it was an interesting career. And fast forward to 2016, my husband and I have sold everything but the Cubs tickets. And we're driving to our new home in Sedona. We get to Springfield, Missouri, and we're listening to the election results, and you know the story. We had to pull off the road. Because even we knew, we didn't know much, but we did know that there were no Democrats in Arizona. What are we going to do? John said, we're just going to have to keep our mouths shut. Seriously, we didn't know what we were going to do. It was like, oh my God, oh my God. A very savvy neighbor a few weeks later, she's driving in the car. So I don't know what your politics are, but we've rented a bus. I said, I'm in. Those are my friends today. Right. So the rest of these people have been very active politically. I had never been active politically. I didn't know anything about this. I just knew that something had to be done, and I wanted to be part of that. So I managed the office for a few years, and then Mark's happily taken it over, and I appreciate that, for the DORR, and I've been on the board for a few years. And Ellen, in her infinite wisdom, has given me a new role for a new committee. We really want to do a better job of welcoming new members into DORR and into the organization and get them launched, if you will. And that's going to be my job. So your job is to help me find new members. People that haven't been a member, but have our, their hearts beat the way ours do. And invite them to join DORR. We have a lot of work to do. And they don't have to knock on doors. They don't have to make phone calls. They can write postcards, whatever. But it's going to be fun. And we're working hard to make the organization fun and interesting. And it's a great place to meet people. So I hope you'll help me with that. My name's Linda Scott. I'm in the book, and make this fun. And I thank you, and I thank you for coming today. And now we're going to get a treat because I get to introduce my friend, DORR board member, city council member, Kathy Kinsella, and she's going to be appearing on Zoom. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, everybody. I am so sorry that I'm not there. I look forward to the DORR breakfast every month. It's one of the few things that I will actually forego the gym.
Hey, Kathy, we can't see you, baby.
Pause for a second. I was supposed to get a little bit of a heads up.
Oh, so-
On the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just takes a while.
And there we go.
Turn the light on.
Here she is.
Here she is. We can see her now. She's coming up. Give me one more second.
Okay.
She's moving into this.
The end.
There she is.
Okay.
We can see you now. All right, go ahead, Kathy.
All right, I did it all. All right, you all got that, right? I'm done, right? Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you. I'm sorry that it's by Zoom. I have the COVID. So in the last days of that, hopefully, but otherwise I would be with you in person. DORR breakfasts are one of the few things that I will forego the morning gym to attend because I think they're so great. So again, sorry I can't be with you. Ellen asked me to keep this short, so I'm just going to start with when I was 10 years old. So that was the first campaign on which I was active when, like Stephen, I'm from the Bronx, and I was a kid running around in the Bronx for McGovern. First campaign, 10 years old, 1972. But it was really great. Like Stephen handing out flyers, and I was in charge of putting all of the bumper stickers on. If you remember back in the day when you actually put them on with wires on real fenders, those chrome. That was my job, to run throughout the Bronx putting those wire bumper stickers on. But that was my first foray into politics back then. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, don't worry. Basically, my wife and I bought our home here in Sedona 13 years ago, and we've lived here full time for 7 years. We moved here from Rhinebeck, New York, where I served for 5 terms as the elected highway superintendent for the town. Prior to that, I'd worked as a director of communications in the New York State Assembly for Assemblymember Dick Gottfried, a great guy, one of the longest serving New York State Assemblymen, who is in his final year. He's going to retire. So I did retire before him, which is a badge of honor. Before Rhinebeck, we were in Manhattan. I ran a New York City agency there for 10 years. And prior to that, ran that same state assembly member's office for 4 years. So I really have a background in government, New York City, New York State, and now Arizona. So fast forward again to Sedona. When we moved out here 13 years ago, or 7 years ago full time, I got involved in a lot of different things. I'm on our homeowners association board, got involved with PFLAG and got on their board, worked with the Heritage Museum as an active volunteer, the Green Bag Food Program, and was with the League of Women Voters and was served as their president for a couple of years at the insistence of Barbara Luttrell, which was a great honor that she asked me to succeed her as the president of the League of Women Voters local chapter. I served for 3 years on the Sedona Planning and Zoning Commission, and now I serve on the Sedona City Council with my colleagues, Holly, who you heard from before, and of course our Mayor Scott. I've been on the DORR board since 2016, as soon as we moved out here. Thanks to really Ronnie Gelm and Peggy Chaikin, really talked me into that. So I've served in many capacities, including secretary at one time, communication chair, been on the bylaws committee, the nominating committee, but now my main focus is really as part of the election committee. My main goal is getting our candidates elected and the issues that we care about passed through the ballot initiatives or the bad ballot initiatives to try and make sure that they fail. It's so important. And I try to really make sure that we pay attention to those issues that don't get they're not nearly as sexy as being out there for a candidate or getting involved in the personal side of politics. Sometimes some of these issues are very complicated or esoteric. And I just think it's really important to focus on those. So I try to bring that to the election committee. A lot of what I do at the election committee is craft our messaging and try to, help advise on parliamentary matters and procedure to our current president and our past president. The work that DORR does is so important, but a personal benefit for me is working with this board. This is a board of talented, professional people, and all of you who are part of DORR are it's been wonderful experience to get to know everybody. And one of the great things is when we do get to socialize, which is why I'm so looking forward to that dance that you heard about in May and to dancing with each and every one of you. Thanks very much. And now it's my job to introduce Frankie Reamer, the board member and our current communications chair.
Hi, thanks, Kathy. I'm also on Zoom. Oh,
There you are.
Yeah.
We see you,
And my
Frankie.
apologies for not being there. There I am. Hi, everybody. I
Hi,
am, despite the
Frankie.
background, I'm actually in Puerto Rico. I'm in Puerto Rico, doing some field work. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I can hear you. No, yes, I'll just keep talking. You'll let me know if you can't hear me. Shelley, you can let me know. So super cool hearing about everybody's background and folks that I know, but sometimes I knew some details, sometimes not. I'm always stunned by how talented a pool of people we are here in Sedona, and it just always bodes well for meeting all the challenges that we have, right, both locally and also in terms of the state. So super cool. I am from the East Coast. Oh, I wanted to say that, Linda, it's the first heard the term belly to belly, so I had to look that up. I like that, and very different from face to face. Also from back east, I grew up in Allentown, PA, the Rust Belt. I'm my grandparents and father were butchers. I came from a real neighborhood democratic tradition. The folks who are now voting for Trump, who used to be Democrats, those were my family members. First generation college student. I went to Penn State, where it took me 2 years to learn that you did not have to go to football games if you didn't want to. I left, I joined the Peace Corps. I lived in Malaysia for a couple years. I then moved to Manhattan, where I taught and wrote poetry and got my master's from Fordham with the Jesuits. And then I moved about. My background is in refugee education and development work. So I worked in Indonesia. I worked in Nicaragua when it was revolutionary Nicaragua. I oversaw revolutionary education in Nicaragua. I did development work in Somalia. And after my doctorate from Penn in Philadelphia, I did a postdoc in Botswana on literacy and women in development work. That led me to come here to Northern Arizona. I came to Flagstaff to get a job at the university. Where I'm a professor. I'm an anthropologist, and currently I'm the director of women's and gender studies on campus. My current work is around gender and tourism, and I'm working on a book that's coming out this year on recentering women in tourism, which I'm super excited about. My current research is on, I've got two projects, women serving institutions, to try to think about what that means and what the responsibilities of universities are. NAU is 63% women, so that I think that means something. And I'm also looking at women's crafts from a neo-colonial understanding. I had a very different sort of background than I've been worked for, educated with, protested with Planned Parenthood my entire life. I wasn't in Sedona during the Women's March, so didn't go with Ellen and all, but I was in DC. I went to the march in DC, which was super exciting. Let's see, and I speak on reproductive rights and equity, and also on gender and climate change for Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance. I came to Sedona in 2014. I too was introduced to politics in Sedona by Barbara Luttrell, for whom we all hold a very warm place in our hearts. Mick Jordahl brought me to the Democrats of the Red Rocks, and then of course left the board as soon as I joined. I'm the secretary. Very smart, right? I'm the secretary and the chair of the, and so I get the press releases in the newspapers when we can. I chair the communications committee along with Shelley, who is our fabulous webmaster, and Stephen, who's our fabulous Facebooker. And I also run with Mick Jordahl, the Political Film Club. We are going to be watching talking about on April 14th, the Academy Award winner, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Oh, wow.
We meet we meet at 5 o'clock on Zoom, and everyone can join us and we can talk about the politics of the meta universe, which who knows what that is, but perhaps after we meet, we will. And I wanted to just give another plug for the fundraiser that Stephen mentioned, the Janes, fabulous movie. And it's not only about women getting abortions, it's about women giving abortions in New York in the 1970s. Super fascinating. So thank you. I spoke quickly because I know we've had a lot of people talking, and it's my delight to introduce Shelley, my friend and co-conspirator.
I'm muted. No, I'm not muted. Okay. Thank you, Frankie, and thank you, everybody. At risk of sounding like a broken record, I too am from New York, born and raised in Brooklyn. Not Brooklyn. But differently from a lot of the other people who've spoken so far, I was not involved in politics at all. In junior high school, I remember we took days off to protest the Vietnam War, and I went to a concert at Madison Square Garden called Together Again for McGovern, and they brought together Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Simon and Garfunkel, who had all broken up at that point. So they brought them all back together for this big concert at Madison Square Garden. But other than that, I really had no interest in and no involvement in politics. I went to State University of New York at Stony Brook, where I got my bachelor's in applied math and statistics. And then I started working in banks as a systems auditor. So we audited the computer systems to make sure they had the proper controls to prevent frauds and stuff. And that was my career. And it was basically, I as a statistics major, I didn't really know what I was going to do. And it was a bank I worked for during the summers, and they offered me a job and I didn't know what it was. My father was an internal auditor, and he said, take it, it's a brand new field. And even though I was being paid about 30% less than most of my other friends graduating from college, I took the job, and as always, my father was right. And so I started working at an Israeli bank as an IT auditor, and then I was at a few of the bigger banks. I was at Chemical Bank, I was at Citibank. And then in 1998, I started working for Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, a Japanese bank. And I worked my way up to be the third woman in the New York branch to become a senior vice president, because the Japanese did not promote women that well. So I was there for 18 years, and fortunately I was able to retire early. And my husband and I visited Sedona many, many, many times, and we loved it. And we knew that was where we were going to retire. So we started planning in 2015. We moved here in June of 2016, at which point I was totally oblivious to Republicans, Democrats. It was, we're just communing with the Red Rocks and making friends and setting up our home and all of that stuff. And then the November 2016 election happened, and my husband and I, we went to hike at Bell Rock, and we just sat there for hours talking about what are we going to do. And we started at the time, right after the election, meetup.com started resist groups. So we started Resist Cottonwood, which sort of morphed into Indivisible Cottonwood, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, but you've got the Verde Valley Yavapai Dems that you heard about earlier. And over the years, I started meeting some of the more politically active folks around here, many of whom you've already met in this breakfast. And I started doing volunteer work for DORR in 2019, and Kathy Rutherford, the prior president, invited me to the board for 2020. So I have been on the board. This is my third year. And as Frankie said, I'm on the communications committee with her. And my main responsibilities is all the background technical work. So all those emails that you hate getting, they're coming from me. My husband and I manage the website. We manage our membership database, which used to be a physical database that was over 20 years old. And with a lot of software that just wasn't supported anymore. So when I came on, I started looking into what can we replace this with. So my first big project was implementing our new membership system. So you're getting, as B said earlier, you're getting emails from that saying you're ready to renew your membership. And please click this link to renew. It's really, or you go to our website and you can renew or join or whatever it is you need to do. On every one of our emails, there's a little pitch at the, going towards the bottom on joining DORR. We also have Friends of DORR, which I'm sure somebody is going to talk about at some point, but that's our recurring donation system. And that all goes through the membership system. And I live in Cottonwood because we couldn't afford being retired the kind of house we wanted in Sedona, because even back in 2016, it was pretty expensive. So we found a beautiful home in Cottonwood. So I'm not there because in addition to my work with DORR, my other passion is music. And I play guitar and I sing, and my husband plays saxophone, and we perform together as Wind and Strings. And unfortunately, I won't be at Dems at the Dancing with the Dems because we are playing at Old Town Center of the Arts in Cottonwood that night at the Dylan birthday bash. So, and I wish I could invite you all there, but obviously I can't because nobody consulted me on the date. So that's me. So if you have any problems or questions with technical stuff, I'm the one to talk to. So thank you. And now I will introduce Margaret Connery, who is the chair of our events.
Angela.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I want to start by saying moving from California brought a lot of change. Red rocks, snowy mountains, and open range. But the hardest thing about Sedona is that we're in Arizona, a Republican country that for us is quite strange. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm Margaret Connery, and I am the events chair. Up until 2016, I believed in that moral arc of the universe. And as long as I voted and put a bumper sticker on my car and a couple of posts on Facebook, everything was going to be all right. But we all know 2016 changed a lot of perception about our role and about the future. And that is why I joined DORR. I was also a Navy brat. I grew up across the country. I moved here from California in 2019. And as the events chair, I help plan events like the annual meeting that we had in January, or a couple of things that you've heard about already, the St. Patrick's Day parade tomorrow, the creek cleanup on March 23rd. Please talk to me after the meeting. I'd love to give you more information. And of course, that special event on May 20th that I am calling DWTD, right? Dancing with the Dems, right? Okay. So see me after the meeting. I'd love to talk to you more about those events and future events that are coming up. We want to really make DORR a place where people connect and have fun. Not only are we able to hear and educate ourselves and learn, but we're also able to share our opinions and build connections with other people with like views. So I want to close with another limerick in honor of St. Patrick's Day. Events seem to happen in their own time. Things don't occur on your schedule or mine. But one thing I'd love to hurry, because I tell you, I'm getting worried. When will TFG be indicted for his crime? I'd like to introduce Angela.
Well, hi, good morning. I'm so happy to be here this morning. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it because I was supposed to be out at Pulaski. Does everybody know what Pulaski is? It's heritage site, and I'm a docent, so I go out there, gosh, about 3 or 4 times a month, and I do my docenting. So it's always a pleasure because you meet the public and you show them the rock art and there's also some dwellings, some ruins, which are ruins now, but they're dwellings there. And it's an amazing place. So I'd like to do it, but unfortunately, with all the rain that's happened there, you can't get up there. It's totally muddy. And it's like I got a call yesterday evening late saying, don't come. Thank you. So I was so happy. Oh gosh, I didn't come today. So I was really, really, really happy to be here. So gosh, I've as you probably most of you know, and if you don't know, you can figure it. I'm not originally from this country. I was born and bred in England, and I grew up. I grew up in Leeds. I went to university in London, to the London School of Economics. I got a degree in Bachelor of Science in Economics and International Relations. And then after that, I got into politics. So I was in politics, but I got offered a job with the Labour Party. So I worked for 2 members of Parliament in London. And that was in 1 year, we talk about having elections. In 1 year, I had to run 3 general elections in 1 year.
Wow.
It was driving me crazy. That was with Margaret Thatcher and Harold Wilson. And nobody could get a majority, so they had to keep having another general election so somebody could get a majority, and it was a pain in the anyway, but I was kept very busy. But it gave me a lot of experience in organizing, and I've always had politics in my blood. I've always, as a kid and growing up, and I'd always go on marches in London and so on. So I tried to get out of trouble, but anyway, finally, long story, but I met my first husband, who unfortunately passed away, but he worked with the United Nations. And so he got an offer which he couldn't refuse, and we ended up moving to Brazil. So we lived in Rio de Janeiro for 5 years, which was very interesting. And the first year I was able to travel a lot with him, which was really nice, very, very, very interesting, especially Cuba, which I thought was amazing. So that was an experience I really, really, really enjoyed. And then that lasted for 5 years. Then I went back to England, and cut long story short, I ended up coming back here. My husband got a job in New Orleans, so that's how I got back here. Anyway, fortunately, my first husband passed away, but we had moved already to Denver, Colorado, which I spent many, many years. And in fact, my kids still are there. They grew up there and married, and my grandkids are there. So I often go back to Denver. It's a wonderful place. And that's when I really got involved in politics here and in certainly in Denver. And I have a very, very active party there, Democratic Party. And finally, I met with my now husband, Paul, who was originally from Sedona. And he always said he wanted to go and then we'd go back to Sedona and live. And we visited here and it was like, oh gosh, this is beautiful. Anyway, ended up finally, it's a long story, but moved here in 2014 and been here ever since. And just been very active with, obviously, with the Democrats here. And DORR is an amazing organization, and I've really worked hard being on the board for many years and working to grow the organization and see what we can do to get more people involved. And it's a great club. It really is. It's a wonderful club, and there's so many things I've just been involved in. I am a member, also active member of the League of Women Voters, and I do that mostly because I do have more chances to do voter registration, because we get far more doors opening for us in those places which don't want to go with politically oriented organizations. So I'm on the election board there with the League of Women Voters, and I like to do election work with them too. And the other thing is you also get into the schools, so you can talk to the school kids with, so that's nice. But I love this club. I think it's a wonderful club, wonderful people. And I'm just proud to have been a member all these years. And I'm really so happy that I could make it today and got here. And thank you very much for coming. And
Toby's up next.
Toby's up next. Where's Toby? My way.
Hey, hi, everybody. I'm amazed at all the talent in this board and in this room too. It's just amazing. So my name is Toby Friedman. So I was listening to everyone. I realized I should tell a little bit about myself. So I was born in Spokane, Washington. I loved it there. Weather's good. I moved to Chicago when I was 4 months old, and that's World War II, but I always like to tell about the time there. So I was remembering as everybody was telling their stories that, so I was in kindergarten, we'd have to leave the room and go to the washroom in the hall. And so my babysitter, who was in charge of all the little girls, said, you know, who hasn't been leader yet, you know? And I always remember I'd always raise my hand, you know, and I was thinking that must have been how it started in kindergarten. Every day I'd raise my hand. I didn't have a turn in. She said, I think you had a turn a couple of days ago. I want to be the leader. So then in 8th grade, I ran for student council, and I thought it would be polite not to to vote for myself. I mean, it's just not polite. So I lost by 1 vote. I learned a valuable lesson. And I was trying to remember in Chicago. So in Chicago, I was always interested in politics. I worked for Billy Singer. I don't know if anybody from Chicago remembers. He ran for mayor against Mayor Daley, like, you know, as though he was going to win or something like that. And was interested in politics. I went to the University of Illinois. The first day I went to register, and my boyfriend who was helping me said, you know, what do you want to be? I said, you know, so he said, you'll be a teacher. So I was a teacher, and I've worked for 26 years in the school system. Paul Vallis was the head of the school system, who is going to be in the runoff for mayor of Chicago now. I was a unit leader at my school. The school was a magnet school, was a third Hispanic, a third Black, a third white, 10% other. So I just loved, you know, working with all the kids there. I was on the local school council there, and then I started taking photos, and we had a problem with the principal, so I'd
record him so that we could verify everything that he said. And then let's see, near 2001, we moved to Sedona, and I thought this is going to be fun. My husband said, "You can garden." You know, the first day I tried to dig into the ground. Gardening wasn't going to be it. And I took some video classes. And then I was going to just play with my grandchildren until Kathy Rutherford's birthday on November 9th and we know what happened on her birthday. Someone was elected president. And I really felt that it was it had something to do, something happened inside of me. I mean, it reminded me of the Holocaust. I mean, I had to do something to protect my grandkids. So I began to look around, Sedona. Polly Cullen said, "Why don't you look at this indivisible thing?" And I did, and it spoke to me. I became a leader of Indivisible. And there was this woman named Kathy Kinsella, who was the head of the Women's March. And I was almost going to go on the bus, Ellen, and I was at a movie, and Peggy Chaikin said that there was going to be a march here. And I thought, well, get to know everything about Sedona. So I contacted Kathy, and I should say the rest is history. So I started working, and I took photos at the march. And then after the march, we started to I worked with her. She became my mentor. And I really think that everything that I do for DORR and for the city is because of Kathy. She really helped. I'm on the action committee for DORR. I am not a board member. And if you are a person who likes to do something, you can get an email from me every Sunday. And it's, if you're on the action committee email, what you do is you see that there's a message for somebody, there's a message going out. So if you're against the Willow Project, you might write to President Biden. And if you are against something happening in Sedona, in the state, I'll give you a script, and you can call Senator Kelly, you can call Senator, excuse the expression, Cinema, and you can call another, excuse the expression, Eli Crane. You can email them. You can, if you are on Twitter, you can tweet, and you can tell them how you feel about the issues that are happening. So that's one thing that you can do. And all you have to do is call me. I put you on the list, and I'll send you this email, and I'll send you the script, and it's easy. I always put easy. And the other thing is the request to speak. So request to speak is another email that I send out every Sunday. And it has maybe, excuse the expression, 65 bills that the legislature, 20 bills, 30 bills, that you can contact you can go online. You can go straight to the state of Arizona, and you can request whether you like that bill or you don't like it. Most of the time, we're opposing things. So what are some of the bills? LGBTQ bills. We know how terrible the education system is. We have bills that the legislature has that we don't want. We oppose those. Other bills that we would see on there, we would vote up or down. And this voting is good because the legislature looks at those votes, and they see that maybe, excuse me, my mouth is getting dry, 300 people or vote oppose that bill. And then the legislator can be swayed because so many of us have requested to speak. So anyways, contact me, and on Sunday you'll get my email. So my mouth is getting dry. So I'm going to sign off, and thank you for letting me be on the action committee. And it's good to see everybody out there on Zoom and in the room. Thanks. And I'm sorry, Freddie Hamilton, who is on Zoom, is going to speak next.
On Zoom.
Hi.
Go ahead and give us just a minute. We got to get the Zoom set up.
Okay.
Okay, Freddie Hamilton is in charge of volunteering for DORR. She's going to speak next, then Janine Reno, and finally Lama. our organizer, will be the wrap-up speaker. And then we're gonna just talk about the mission for a little while, so.
We're ready for you now.
The door is not locked if you need to use it.
Hi, I'm Freddie Hamilton, and I was born and bred in Brooklyn, New York. I then spent most of my life working in classical theater, so I lived in very liberal communities surrounded by people who thought as I did. And it was only when I moved away from the coasts that I realized not everyone saw the world that way. And we all know these last years have been frightening. Our very democracy is being threatened. And I realized I couldn't just sit back and hope that someone else would save it. I had to do my part. I also came to see that none of us can do very much on our own, but when we join together, we are a powerful force. So I joined the volunteer committee for DORR. And what we do is find out what a volunteer is willing to do and then let them know when their talents are needed for a project. It was the work of these amazing volunteers who knocked on doors, made phone calls, sent out postcards, raised funds for our candidates, and talked to anyone who would listen that turned our state blue in the last election. I was so inspired by the activism that I witnessed in our little community. I mean, we were phenomenal. I hope we can carry this forward to the work that we're beginning to do for 2024. So what the volunteer committee hopes to do is talk to every interested Democrat and inspire them to give some of their time to DORR to help get Democrats elected in our state. And we have a whole list of wonderful volunteer opportunities. There's canvassing, that's the actual knocking on doors, talking to voters, the most critical thing we do. Phone banking, fundraising, voter registration opportunities. And then we need people to help organize the various events that DORR sponsors, literally the setup, the decorating, the hauling of the equipment. And we need the talents of graphic designers, technology whiz kids, writers to create our communications, people who are social media savvy, whatever talent you have, we need you. So I'm going to put my email address, my phone number in the chat. I would love to talk to each one of you to find out what you would like to do to volunteer for DORR and to help out. I thank you very much in advance. And now I want to introduce Janine Reno, who heads up the research committee.
Yes.
Hi, I am Janine Reno. I'm currently between the 303 and the 101 down in the valley for a dog agility trial. I'm in the car. I am from the East Coast. I grew up in Yardley, Pennsylvania, or outside of Philadelphia. I went to college, Drexel University. I am an art lover. I majored in design, specifically in fashion design, which has nothing to do with politics. But as a volunteer of what I had to learn in college was to think on my feet without instructions and build something from a vision. So I'm really glad to be here. I am on the research committee. I'm a committee of one, and I will be quantifying everything that the request to speak group, what Toby is working on, keeping a database of records so we can educate our members about each topic, what has happened. And so we can take action. And also, so when we recruit volunteers for canvassing or phone banking, I think that one of the reasons that people don't want to step up is because they're not educated on the issues and they're afraid that they're going to be questioned and they don't know the answers. So we will know the answers from the work that I'm doing. And I'm going to be collecting I'm tracking all the bills that are in the legislature right now. And I've also worked in the past 2 years with Civic Engagement Beyond Voting on a volunteer project that they organized going in the 2022 election, that we followed the research to follow the voting records of some of our worst legislators in the state. We wrote letters to the editor, and had a postcard campaign, 2 of them, that we reached 30,000 voters in the state to let them know what their legislators were up to. So I'm continuing to use those skills as a DORR member, and I'm very excited to be part of the social part of DORR and meet more people in my community. And to back up, I live in the village of Oak Creek. I've been here since 2016, and I also became activated when the man who was in office, whose name I won't say, became elected. So I'm going to pass it off now to Lama, our paid organizer.
Yay.
Oh, well, that's
I don't want to.
Power button on the,
I see it.
one more time. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Lama Habron. I am DORR's field organizer. I'm going to keep it kind of short about myself. As you can tell, I'm probably the youngest person in this room. So. But so I had the honor of organizing in Sedona and the Verde Valley for this past cycle. And I really got started with politics from birth, kind of. My dad was a huge inspiration to me, and he really got me involved in politics. And my first paid job was working Ruben Gallego's first congressional campaign, doing the canvassing and the driving and the phone banking and all the fun stuff that I get you to do now.
Where are you from, Lama?
Oh, that's a good question. I was born in Texas, but I actually lived in Sedona for 4 years when I was very young, from 4 to 8. And my parents always wanted to come back. Like, we were forced to move because of job stuff, but they always wanted to come back. And they finally retired here around 2015. But I stayed in Phoenix. I was in Phoenix for like 20 years. So I worked Gallego's campaign and then moved into this nonprofit called Leadership for Educational Equity. And their whole mission is to train their members to take public leadership positions in policy, advocacy, organizing, elected office, so that they can fight for educational equity. I was there 7 years, which is kind of long for my age. But it was a great experience, and I learned a lot about organizing that I then got to bring here when I moved here in June of 2021. So I got involved right away with DORR. Thank God you were here. So thank you for being here. And I really want to talk about what I do, because that's the good stuff. So in Yavapai County in general, we have basically 3 goals that are going to help us win in 24 and beyond. And that's registering new voters, Democratic voters, turning out Democratic voters, and engaging independents, because we cannot win without independents. So towards, actually, as an example of that, in Sedona, there are 4 precincts between Yavapai County and Coconino County. 3 of the 4 had higher Democratic turnout than Republican turnout, which is kind of normal for Sedona. But Uptown and the Chapel area had lower Democratic turnout than Republican turnout. So that's an area where we have an opportunity to do some work to get people organized and get people there engaged, because we do need them all to vote. We really need high turnout. And there's a lot of ways to drive turnout and just to organize neighborhoods. So as Freddie was kind of saying, whatever volunteer activities that you're interested in, we can make it happen, and we can make it fun for you so that you could go talk to your neighbors and get excited about being with people who think like you do. And so we are not waiting for 2024 to get started. We are starting now because there's a lot to do. And frankly, we have the time to do it now, so we should. So I am going to pass around a sign-up sheet. Even if you don't want to do voter contact, go ahead and sign it, and I will share this with, I will share this with Freddie so that she can reach out to you if you'd like to do some of the other activities that don't fall under my domain. But please go ahead and sign up, and I will be in touch. And honestly, we can make this fun, and we have a real chance to turn the state, this county, Sedona's already blue, but the Verde Valley, we can turn you all blue. So I need your help though. As Freddie said, we can't do it alone. So I think that's all for me.
Thank you.
Pass around. Thank you.
Good. Hi, everybody. Before Ellen comes up, sorry, telling you about the mission and the Q&A, I have been checking my Twitter. Now, I can't tell you that Donald Trump's been indicted yet, but there is so much that is broken while we've been in here, and I just wanted to let you know what it is. Okay. All right. In no particular order. Hunter Biden has filed a sweeping countersuit against the computer repair shop owner and others, accusing them of 6 counts of invasion of privacy. The International Criminal Court in The Hague has just issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. This one's a little scary. Local, state, and federal law enforcement and security agencies are preparing for the possibility that Trump could be indicted as early as next week, according to 5 senior officials familiar with the preparations, which is a little scary. 2 more. Dems on the House Oversight Committee today released a report that Donald Trump failed to improperly document more than 100 gifts from foreign governments valued at more than $250,000, including $48,000 from Saudi Arabia.
Oh, surprise.
And the last one, the DOJ obtained an internal Trump campaign report prepared for Trump, telling him he had lost the election and there was no widespread fraud. The report was presented to Trump before he started making phone calls, trying to overturn election results. The DOJ has this. Thank you. And now our esteemed president, take over.
Oh, my gosh.
Not all of that is surprising.
I know.
In fact, a lot of it is. I'm going to greatly curtail what I had planned for this afternoon because, or this morning. Well, it was this morning. Now it's tonight. I just have to say, are you impressed by what you just saw?
Yeah.
Seriously, the people on this board, the committee chairs, I mean, everybody associated with DORR is just first rate, amazingly educated, amazingly talented, and amazingly motivated people. They do not have to do this. Not one person here, with the exception of Lama, and she's not getting paid. Not one person here is getting paid for all the hours and hours they put in. And you can see how many hours these people put in. And these are talented people, and we're so lucky and honored to have them. And I'm just blown away by the stories because I haven't even heard a lot of them yet. So, okay, so we got a Democrat in the White House, a Democrat governor, a Democrat Secretary of State and Attorney General. We are so lucky and in such a better place than we were just a few years ago. So much better place, thank God. But the MAGA people are out there and they're angry. They believe Carrie Lake won. They believe that the election was stolen from Trump, and they are angry. And the margins that we won by are razor thin. Holy crap. Chris Mays won by like 250 votes. 280. I mean, out of the state. This is so thin. We cannot rest on our laurels. We cannot say mission accomplished and go back to whatever we were doing before that. We have to keep going. And that's the kind of thing that DORR will do. It is an election year, but it's not an election year, but it's not a non-effort year. We have to build for next year. We have to not let our volunteers float away because there's no immediate job for them right away. So we just have to keep the pressure on, and I think we will, and I think we can. The mission of DORR is threefold. To elect Democrats by increasing voter turnout, promoting Democratic Party principles, and educating the community. And what I had intended to do, but I'm not sure we want to go into this in such great lengths because we've been sitting a long time now. However, increasing turnout, we need to focus on that. We need to talk to people. Everybody
who is a DORR member is an ambassador for this organization. We should tell them about it. We should offer them to join. We should make it easy for them to join. We need to get out there and make sure that every Democrat votes and that the independents understand what's happening. One of the things we can do, even in our, one of the things that we can do that we should be doing is being actively informing the public about the votes that are happening right now in the state legislature.
Yes.
And by Eli Crane, our congressman who beat Tom O'Halloran significantly, who says that the Department of Education, the federal Department of Education, should be abolished. He's out there with the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. And last week or this week, he said that the World Health Organization is a communist organization, a puppet of China, and we should abolish the World Health Organization. This is serious and this is delusional. And we have to make sure that we write letters to the editor. If you don't have Facebook, get people informed. We have to inform people. So increasing turnout is one major thing that DORR will be focusing on. You see the resources we have. You see Llamas here. Cottonwood is doing the same thing. Prescott's doing the same thing. Our numbers are against us, but we have to keep up the effort. And I was going to do a whole list of increasing the voter turnout, but I won't do that. The second thing, promoting Democratic Party principles. We all know what those are. We want to do the right thing for the average person, the working person. We're not here to make millionaires richer. We're here to make sure that everybody has voting rights and that people can have reproductive rights and that this is a democracy and that can't be taken away from us. And by the way, as an aside, the St. Patrick's Day parade tomorrow, our theme is patriotism, red, white, and blue flags all over that truck that we're decorating, Diana's truck. And we're going to be playing John Philip Sousa marches. We're going to be as American as apple pie and have Democrat signs all over that truck. And so we need people. We're even going to be handing out little wildflower seeds, which are good for the environment and not nothing plastic. We need to promote democratic principles. And we need to educate the community. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, the letters to the editor, the Facebook, things like that. We need to be talking it up, that Biden is helping this economy, that the Republicans are disastrous for this economy. We need to be talking it up. We have a group called the Liberal Ladies Lunch Club that is run by our Indivisible group. We're going to try to make them a lot more active and figure out ways that they can be involved. We just need to be ambassadors and promote our side. We're in a minority in this state and it's tough. So let me see if there's anything critical I have to tell you. I did want to tell you about, about the strengths of DORR. We have an office. What a huge thing it is for us to have an office. That takes money. Right now, people are not dropping by the office. It's like being the Maytag repairman when you're working there. But it is a place for us to have meetings, a place to congregate. It's a place that will become very, very active next year when we're doing canvassing. And so we want to keep the office. It's a great asset. We have people power, great base of volunteers that you heard from Freddie just now. It's a great organization and I'm very grateful to be the president and we just have to keep going. So thanks to the DORR board who gives so much of their time and the committee chairs. We've got some real talent here. There's no reason we can't make some real headway in this community. So thank you for sitting so long. The stories were fascinating. I loved it. And that's it. You're dismissed. Questions? Happy to answer questions. Diana?
I just want to point out, I have Ruben Gallegos petitions. If you haven't signed them, they're over here. Please do make sure you sign either from Coconino County or from Yavapai, depending on where you live.
We have a few minutes for questions if anybody has anything. Okay,
I'm just gonna point out that as far as turnout, we all want us to be reaching out to make sure everybody understands the early voting list is no longer the permanent early voting list. That if you didn't vote early last time, you're gonna have to sign up for it this time,
Right.
because that is gonna affect turnout.
Right. If you didn't vote last time, you have to sign up again to get your ballot in the mail. Okay, cool. Margaret?
See me after the meeting if you want information on the parade or the quick cleanup.
Oh, great. Okay, class dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.